everybody. Look at that. Welcome to Texas Public Radio. Clap it up. This is Worth Repeating Chisme. We are giving you all the hot gossip, rumors, backstage stories, things that should not be said aloud. With that being said, guys, this is adult content. I apologize for all the degenerates you're going to hear from tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be co-hosting with a good friend of mine. She's also a Storyboard member. Guys, can you give her a warm welcome to Mary Becquet? What's up, Mary?
Oh my gosh, have I got some chisme for you right now?
Uh-oh.
Are you guys ready?
I don't know.
Well, we're all pretty close. Okay, I wanted to tell you this. In my family, when my aunt would have a dream about a fish, it always meant someone was pregnant.
Oh my God.
She would start it going. She'd be on the group text. I had a fish dream last night. Everybody's like, who is it? Who is it?
Yeah. I don't even want to ever have fish again. Gross. That's crazy. What do you think about the program we've got together tonight?
Incredible. Oh my gosh, these stories, like some of them, they're so tactful. Like I'm always like, I need to know more.
We're going to corner them for names and addresses. Report everybody. All right. Well, we're going to get right into it. We're super excited to have you guys. And yeah, let's get started. Let's do it.
All right.
Our first storyteller tonight is Frank Kavanaugh. Frank shares a rumor behind his name and how you can also lead a horse to beer.
Please welcome to the stage, Frank Kavanaugh.
I was named after a horse. When my 11th grade students discovered this, a hand goes up in the back of the room. So, Mr. K, is that why you're such a horse's ass? Yes, O wise one, especially when I'm grading your next essay. So, according to family stories from my Aunt Helen, the family historian, my grandfather owned a horse named Frank. In 1903 and 4, he courted my grandmother in a buggy pulled by Frank. And Frank was, I gotta tell this. They named their firstborn after the horse. And a half century later, I was named after Uncle Frank. Frank the horse was stubborn and cantankerous, and he developed a problem, drunkenness. So it all started one afternoon after my grandfather, Walter, had completed his deliveries in downtown Dallas, and the streets were hot and dusty. So Frank and Walter pulled up to a beer garden, and Walter brings Frank to the rail, ties him up, and orders himself a beer and a sandwich, and asks the waiter if he could bring something cold for his horse. The waiter says, the coldest thing he has is a bucket of beer. Walter says, bring it. Maybe it'll make him less hard-headed. So the waiter sets a bucket of beer before Frank. Frank sticks his head in the bucket and doesn't raise his head until he slurped it all away. Walter later said that anytime someone claimed that they could drink like a horse, Walter's response was, not likely. So the trip home was about 3 or 4 miles, and it was considerably slower than usual and less sure-footed. Walter never told anyone about Frank's antics, and this became a problem for Walter when his father, Pa, asked to borrow Frank for the day to run errands downtown. And for Walter, this caused great consternation and dread because Pa was even more cantankerous than Frank the horse. And also, Walter knew that Pa would give him hell for giving Frank beer. So, at the end of the day, when Frank and Pa pull in back home, Pa doesn't say a word to Walter, and this makes Walter even more worried. So Pa is silent all through supper, and after supper he starts telling the story how Frank pulled Walter to the beer garden. The waiter comes out and ties Frank to the rail and sets a bucket of beer before Frank. So Pa concludes his story with a question. So Walter, what I want to know is, for how long have you owned stock in that damn beer garden? Now, you may wonder if being named Frank is appropriate for me, and whether I share any character traits with this horse. Well, I am stubborn and hard-headed, and I am a character. I had a professor at UT who had a sideline in researching name meanings and the origins of names. So I knew that the word Frank means direct and honest, but my professor came to me with two adjectives that surprised me: beautiful and noble. Okay, my parents were both attractive people. But as for nobility, I had two older brothers and quite a few nuns who taught me that would have contrary evidence to that. So the nuns had a sliver of hope for me because my patron saint was Francis of Assisi, the great champion of the poor, lover of animals, surely one of the top 10 saints of all time. Well, if I would have known back then about Frank the horse and his connection to me, I like to think that I would have been direct and honest enough with the nuns to tell them that my namesake was actually a beer-swilling horse. Yes, I do like beer, and the Real Ale people might like to know that. My love of beer was demonstrated in college when I wrote a 4-page paper, an essay claiming that Heineken Dark was superior to regular Heineken, and I did a lot of research for that. Then there's that Kavanaugh fellow on the Supreme Court. My nephews sarcastically refer to him as Cousin Brett. But everybody in my family is eager to make clear that we're not related to that guy. In fact, 2 days after Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed by the Senate, I went into a bar that was fortunately not well populated at the time. I marched right up to the bartender, slammed my fists on the bar, and said, "My name's Kavanaugh and I like beer." So, I do like my name, and I don't think I'm really a horse's ass, contrary to my 11th grade student's opinion. But I feel fortunate that I'm named Frank. After all, I know it could have been worse. My father, instead of naming me after his oldest brother, could have laid on me his middle name, Aloysius. Thank you for being here.
Man, that horse sounds like it can party.
I know, right? Frank the horse reminds me of a lot of my relatives.
Just on the daily. Give it up for Frank.
Frank! Well, our next storyteller is Lynn Knapik. Now, Lynn shares a story of a grudge that impacted more than one person and how sometimes you can't believe everything you hear.
Guys, welcome to the stage, Lynn.
All right.
Good evening. So my story's a little bit different. When I moved back from Dallas in 2000, I knew I wanted to do something to give back to the community. And I decided to be a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate. I don't know where I heard about CASA, but I did. And I'm glad I did, because I think it was a life changer for me, and I know it was a life changer for a little girl named Cheyenne. She was a child that gets taken into the foster care system is supposed to be there for maybe a year, 18 months at the most. Our case lasted 6 long years. That's a long time for a 4-year-old to be stuck in foster care. So why did this happen? It's kind of hard to say, and I hadn't really thought too much about it until I decided to do this talk. And my group of friends, as part of this, said, why did it happen? Why did it happen? And so I had to start thinking about that. And I think the main thing is it was team dysfunction. Because there are a few people that are part of the team for the kids, and then there are people that are part of the team for the moms and the dads. And we had an ad litem, who is the attorney for the child, who for some reason didn't participate as a team member, as far as I could tell. And so we ended up with a little tension between us. Maybe it was because I didn't see her seeing the kids. There were 2 children to start with. There was a 13-month-old and a 4-year-old. And I didn't see her ever going to see the kids. I didn't ever have any contact with her, except when we got to the courtroom. So at one court hearing, and we went every 6 months for a court hearing, at one court hearing, I said to the judge, Judge, who do I tell if this ad litem is not doing her job? And he said, well, you tell me. And so I'm standing in front of him, and she's standing next to me, and I said, well, this ad litem is not doing her job. He didn't say anything. Nothing changed. Nothing happened. She didn't defend herself. We just went on to the next time. There were lots of these instances of things that I felt were being ignored for my kids, and there were lots of lies being told in the courtroom, lies being told. And I pointed this out a number of times to the judge. One time I even went after our hearing, before his next hearing, or after his next hearing, to tell him, that thing she just told you about that psychiatric examination, it never happened, because I had talked to the people in Victoria and at the place where she was living at the time, and I knew there had not been a psychiatric evaluation. I knew there had not been a number of things that she told the judge right in front of the court. One of the big things that happened, though, was the time that she brought to court a letter from a psychologist that said that I should stay away from the child for 6 months because I was a bad influence. Now, here's the deal. The psychologist never met the child, and she never met me. So how does she say this? It's some chisme, huh? You think? You think? So as a CASA, we had the standing to talk to anybody and everybody associated with the case. And so this woman now was associated with the case. So I called, left a message, I need to talk to you. Didn't get a response. I called again, and I don't know if I got her to answer that time, if I left the message saying, I have standing, you must talk to me. I think that's the way it was. I think it was that more aggressive way, because I can be that way from time to time, especially when it involves a kid who's being hurt. And so, and by this time, the kids had been separated too. They had been separated for a long time, but by this time, well, I'll tell you the rest of that in just a minute. But But anyway, so she answered, we talked. I said, so how do you say this when you've never met us? She said, well, I think that I have been how did she put it? Unwittingly brought into a power struggle. Whose power struggle? It wasn't mine. I wasn't the one who did this. But I decided I'm not going to fight this. I will stay away from Cheyenne, who's my kid's name, for the next 6 months. That's a long time when you've been seeing a kid regularly, at least once a month, if not more than that. That's a long time. So we did that. Now, let me take a back step to the fact that there were 2 kids, the 13-month-old and the 4-year-old. So at one point, the 4-year-old made an outcry of having been sexually molested. And so she started doing crazy things. And so the foster parents couldn't handle it, so she got taken away to somewhere else. And the beginning of her many somewhere else's. The 13-month-old, the little one, stayed there. Well, all of a sudden, after we had gotten to the point where their adoptions could happen, where the parental rights had been terminated, all of a sudden one day in court, I hear the clerk say to the judge, there was an adoption in this case yesterday. That meant the younger child had been adopted by the very first foster parents. We were in court to talk about that day, but it had already happened. We had been talking about reuniting the kids now that they could be adopted and having them adopted together. But now their relationship was severed forever because the attorneys got together and put their little thoughts together and said, let's do this before CASA has a chance to say that we should keep them together. So the kids were separated. These attorneys did all kind of weird things. Now, I worked for an attorney for a year. I like attorneys. I got a lot of friends that are attorneys. I don't know why these people thought that they should take the lives of these children and be so cavalier with them. It just didn't fit for me. So after the time of my separation for 6 months, I got really busy. I was going to lots of meetings. That there were lots of CPS, Child Protective Services people there, big wigs in Child Protective Services. And I always found out who was who, and I went and had a little chat. And I usually told them our story, and I told them this child needed to be adopted. And guess what? We got it done. We got it done. But yes, we did. We did. 6 years. She was 10 years old by that time. But here's what happened there. I never got to go to tell her goodbye. I always showed up at every place she went. She knew I was going to show up. But when she went to the airport to leave for Virginia, I wasn't there because I wasn't invited. And the reason I wasn't invited is because the adoptive parents had been told more chisme about me. And the reason I know that is because last May I met them. I knew that now, 15 years after this was all done, that it was time that I was okay to contact Cheyenne. She wasn't a kid anymore. She was 25 years old. So I contacted her. I found her through Facebook. She emailed me back right away, yes, it's me, yes, it's me. And so I contacted her. I went to Virginia. I met her and her husband and her 2 kids. She's now got 1 more because she was pregnant at the time. And I met her parents. And you know what her parents said to me as I sat in their kitchen? They said, you're not anything like we were told you were. So, thank you.
Get fail.
Right.
Why was she like that?
I don't know. I don't understand that at all.
6 years? Wow. Let's give it up to Lynn for not killing that woman.
She never gave up.
Wow, that's some inner strength. Mm-hmm. I guess the court helps, right? Wow, okay. Our next storyteller is Violeta. Violeta's going to share the aftermath of a secret that became a scar that she had to carry.
Please welcome to the stage, Violeta.
¿Qué pasó? So I'm super Mexican. And I love my mom. So the flavors that would come out of her fingertips in the kitchen, the songbird melody that would come out of her throat while she was singing, this woman was special. And I love this woman, except for the part where she was super obsessed with my sexuality back before this was even a thing. I mean, all you had to do was take one look at me and be like, this girl has no game. None. I'm gonna take y'all on a little time travel trip to the 1990s, San Antonio, the West Side. While my peers are listening to TLC, Salt and Pepper, Selena, they're going to their grandma's house to watch Jerry Springer. I'm at home listening to the Little Mermaid soundtrack and watching Barney and Friends for fun, not for irony, for fun. And it wasn't enough for my mom, you know? I would be at home watching telenovelas. It would be hot because it's Texas. I'm wearing like some shorts around the house. A little bit of my thigh would show. My mom would be like, ay, tápate, ¿tú crees que eres famosa o qué? I'd want to go to the H-E-B on Commerce in Zarzamora. Yeah. 3 blocks from my house. All I wanted was some chocolate, some like a Crunch bar. My mom would be like, ay, nomás quieres andar en la calle. As if I were a streetwalker. And not that I'm against that, but like that's just not what I was doing. And the older I got, the more attention that I got, the more delusional her accusations became. It got to the point where I was like, oh, no. We can't do this anymore. I got to get out. But I had to get out, but also simultaneously have my mother's blessing, because if I didn't have her blessing, that projectile chancla would follow me wherever I went. So she had to say yes. So it's the senior year of high school, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go to the best college in town, Mom. Because here's the thing. She needed me to be educated so I could help lift the family out of poverty, right? So that was kind of the loophole for me. I go to her and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the best college in town, Mom. Oh, but look, I have to live on campus. It's mandatory, I can't get out of it. Oh, bummer, how sad. She said yes, I had to promise to come home every weekend, and I had to call her 3 times a day, whatever, small price to pay for freedom. And so I did. I went to Trinity University. Did I party? No. Did I get drunk? No. No, I was just at home doing my thing, or in the dorm room doing my thing. And as time went on, I felt like I needed a bigger caper. I'm like, okay, what do I do next? Study abroad, baby. I'd been taking French since I was 12 years old at Tafoya Middle School. And I told my mom back then, I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna go to France. And she said, sí, mijita, lo que tú quieras. Whatever. I reached 20, and I'm like, Mom, I'm going. And I saw the look behind her eyeballs, like the gears were going. My little girl, alone, in the kinkiest, sexiest place on the planet. She was like, no, tú no te me vas, tú te quedas aquí. I put my foot down. And I also realized that she kind of wanted to show off to other people, you know, like, ay, mi hija está en Francia. Times are hard. So she said yes. She didn't want me to go, but she said yes. So there I am. It's like last minute. I'm like packing. Last minute like I do. It's like 4 hours till like go time at the airport, and I'm still packing, and I finish up. And then I'm about to go to bed, And I realized, oh, the jar of peanut butter. Because I'd been told at that time that Americans crave peanut butter because apparently France has everything but no peanut butter. So I got myself this little jar, and I'm trying to put it in my suitcase. It's like this gigantic suitcase bigger than me. It's already full of stuff that I'm only going to use half of that stuff, but I don't know that at that moment, right? So I'm like trying to put it in, and it won't fit. And then I get this idea to like kind of gingerly sit on the suitcase. So I like put one butt cheek on it, and I start jumping up and down. It doesn't work. I put 2 butt cheeks, and then my thighs, and I'm jumping up and down. My mom walks in. ¿Qué estás haciendo? I'm trying to put the jar in my suitcase. She comes and sits next to me, and she starts jumping up and down too. So both of us are going like this, trying to get it in. And I don't know if it was the delirium or the sorrow, but we fall over each other laughing. It's like I'm 20 years old at that time, and then her inner 20-year-old came out to greet me. It was the most gorgeous moment. Did it make me stay? No, I went. I went, and it was great. That was one of the last times that I saw her in really good health. She passed away in 2005. Que en paz descanse. La quiero mucho. And then the chisme got interstellar, y'all. Whoo. Fast forward 10 years after my mother's death. I'm having this run-of-the-mill phone conversation with my brother. And he goes, hey, remember that time those family members came over to the house and told us all these sordid family details about the past? And I was like, ¿qué? Quoi? What? What are you talking about? He said, yeah, there's this rumor from back in the day, before Mom's time, so not Mom, but back in the day, there was this rumor about this illegitimate child from a long time ago, and there was this cover-up, and it was really painful. He's like, you don't remember that? And I said, no, I don't remember that, and I'll tell you why, because I was out of the country, I wasn't there, and no one thought to update me on the family shenanigans. And then I realized this whole time that my mother's so-called prophecy of me being sexually active as a teenager, it wasn't a prophecy, y'all. It was a memory from someone back in the day. Sometimes chisme is damaging, hurtful, life-wrecking. For me, it was my liberation. Because I knew once and for all, there's nothing I could have told this woman to make her trust me. There's nothing I could have told her. Nothing I could have told her. And now I'm like, ay, pobrecita. She needed a comadre. She needed to chismear. And she needed to get this trauma out of her, like in therapy, not in front of her kids. Right? So I don't know if this is karmically appropriate, but I have a fantasy that I'm about to share with you all. If I could tangle the textile of time, I'm 42 now, I would go to her 42-year-old self, kidnap her, bring her to my house through the tunnels of time travel, make her brunch, serve her mimosas. She didn't know what a mimosa was. I'm like, Mom, I'd be like, Mom, here's a mimosa. Here's my art. This is who I've been all along. I love me, and I think you loved me too, but I want you to love the real version of me. But I would also tell her, cuéntame todo, cuéntame, dime, tell me everything, tell me all your stories, but make them funny. And I know she would have, because she was that good.
Moms.
Right?
Wow. We don't know how to do it. All right, we're doing the best we can. Clap it up for all the moms in the room.
Yeah. Well, our next storyteller is James Rodriguez. Now, James tells a story that requires, well, it's about a job that required him to be a fly on the wall, no matter how sticky.
Please welcome to the stage, James Rodriguez.
Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a filmmaker. Growing up in West Texas, in a small town, I didn't ever think that was possible. I assumed I was just going to live a regular, boring life and have a very boring job. But in 2013, I decided to make a few bold moves. I got married. I moved to Austin, and I joined the film industry in Austin as a freelance production assistant. So one of the earliest jobs that I had was working on a commercial that had a producer from LA. Now this producer, really nice lady, after that commercial was done, she came up to me and said, hey, you know what? I think you're a great, you got a good attitude. You're a hard worker. I am producing a reality series next month in Austin that I think you would be great for. In fact, if you want the job, it's yours. And you would be the key set production assistant. So I said, absolutely, I will take the job. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm so excited. So I immediately called my wife and I said, hey, babe, I just got a job offer to work on a reality show in Austin next month. It's a whole month's worth of work, and I'm going to be the key set PA. My wife was like, oh my God, that is great news. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. What's the show called? The show is called Adult Film School, Season 2. My wife's like, Adult Film School? What's it about? Well, we get real couples that talk to a famous erotic photographer, and basically they come together and she teaches them the ropes on how to make their ultimate sex tape on the Playboy channel. Silence. Hello? My wife said, absolutely not. There's no way you're doing a show like that. That's inappropriate. And I said, you know what? I totally get it. You're totally right. In fact, I will tell her that I'm just going to pass on the job. And my wife just interrupted and said, well, don't be stupid. Take the job. I'm just kidding. Like, we need the money, so go for it. So fast forward to October, I'm working in pre-production as the key set PA. Now, some of my duties was to help facilitate the arrival of the couple that would come in for the show. We call them the talent, and I would help them. It's true. I would help them process their paperwork, get them acclimated with the show, and answer any questions that they have about the show. So here we are. We've got our first couple. And this first couple that comes in for the show, well, actually, let me start over. For those who haven't seen this show, it's online. Basically, the concept is that you have a new couple come to the host and they discuss what their ideal sex fantasy is going to be for their sex tape, and then we make it. We have an art department that creates the sets, we have a wardrobe team that designs the costumes, and we have the host teach them on how to get their most out of their erotic sex tape. So, fast forward to the couple for the first episode of the new season. So this couple wanted to have a Tarzan meets Jungle Jane kind of motif. Very original, right? So it's our first day on set, and this is going to kick off the first episode of the season. So I make my way to set, which is located that day on a ranch near a pond right on the outskirts of Austin. Now, keep in mind, leading up to this moment, I have not really been thinking about what kind of show it was. I was busy running errands, processing paperwork, getting food for the talent. I mean, I was just way too busy to really think about what kind of show we were doing. So I walk onto set and I see a jungle like a legit jungle. They had palm trees, they had vines coming from the trees, they had smoke cascading off the ground into the water. I mean, this was a legit set, fully built, fully lit. And that's when it hit me. Oh my God. We are making a porn. So I'm on set running around trying to look busy and like trying not to really see anything. And then just on the corner of my eye, I see an art assistant from the art department with that same look on their face. And we lock eyes. We have this look on our face like, oh my God, we're about to see total strangers bone right in front of all of us. I was really, really nervous. Now, keep in mind, by the way, like just a little side note, like I'm no virgin, all right? But I'm not an exhibitionist either, okay? So this was all very new to me and I was not prepared to see that stuff. So just as the director is about to call action, he turns around to everybody and he says, all right, everybody, just me, the talent, camera, and audio on the set for this location. This is a close set. If you are non-essential crew, I need you to leave off set, and I will yell cut on the walkie-talkie, and you can all come back to set. Oh, thank God. Oh. The amount of relief was so immense that I didn't have to see any action going on. So I leave set, and I'm standing out away from set, out of view, out of sight. The director yells cut on the walkie-talkie, and we mosey on down back to set. And just in time to see the talent, put their bathrobes on them, on themselves, and they're all chugging Gatorade and water, and they're all glistening like they had just done like insane cardio for the last 30 minutes. And that was the show every other day with a new couple for that whole season for an entire month. Yeah. I mean, we were a well-oiled machine. The talent was well-oiled. But what I got from this experience is that regardless of the content that I was creating, regardless of the filmmaking that I was involved in, with it being pornography, everyone on set was professional, courteous, and respectful. There were rules and protocols in place, and everyone treated everyone with respect and dignity. There are some workplaces that people work in now that don't even have that. This one did. This is my chisme on the adult film industry.
Gross. Wow. But what an interesting way to go to work every day.
Right? It sounds like good production values.
Yeah. So utmost professionalism was exactly what I was thinking the entire time. Give it up for James one more time.
Yay!
All right, we're excited to get back into it, guys. First storyteller back from our break is Sealia Montalvo. Sealia is going to share a story about a dude that had no business giving her a nickname.
Please welcome to the stage, Sealia Montalvo.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I definitely have had my fair share of being on a lot of dating apps. Like, has anybody else? I know I'm not the only one. So definitely used to be on and off almost every dating app. I've probably been on it. But this is a specific story on Bumble about one of the most emotionally taxing situationships I was in. And so that is this story. So a couple of years ago, I matched with this guy on Bumble. He only has one photo. I'm like, okay, this is a little sus, but he's not super hot, so I'm like, okay. He's normal. He's normal. On his bio, it says he's a paralegal, like he's in law school. I'm very enticed, obviously. So we're messaging back and forth for a couple of weeks, but we're both in school, so we can't really meet with our hectic schedules. And then we end up meeting in person. And it was very, right away, like this this emotional connection flourished between us. And I was pretty into him, he was into me, but it was definitely more like a friends with benefits type situation between us. But he was like, I don't want to date you seriously. I'm like, yeah, me neither, like, whatever. Me neither, am I right? And so we got pretty close. Like, I thought we were really close friends. Like, we would watch Lord of the Rings, we'd watch documentaries. We would always eat McRib, rip the McRib. Like, not the best thing for my stomach, but, you know, it was, like, late at night. He definitely told me, like, secrets and, like, intimate details. Like, I was the first person he called when he got kicked out of law school. Like, you know, casual stuff. Like, you know, I definitely thought we were friends at that point. And so, you know, we're kind of talking, we're chatting, we're hanging out. You know, I'm having a great time with this guy, and we slowly kind of distance each other. He's definitely distancing from me. I'm a little confused. He used to call me a lot, and then I suddenly was getting no phone calls from him. And then one of the last times I spoke to him, I invited him to my birthday party, and I was really excited. I was like, oh. I want to invite you to my birthday party. He's like, oh, I'm dating this new girl. I'm like, that's great. You can bring her to my birthday party. You know, we're all good. It's all peaches and gravy. I thought we were like Bert and Ernie type buds, but I thought. And then slowly after that, I don't hear from him. I'm ghosted. I was blocked, and I'm super frustrated. I'm sad about it. I'm furious. I have this disdain towards him. Like, if I see him out in public, it's on sight type deal. But I get over it, you know? Like, he doesn't exist anymore in my life, so it becomes mutual. I don't have feelings for this man anymore. And so about 6 months later, he calls me. And I'm like, why do I still have this number saved? And so I don't answer. He texts me. He calls. He texts. It's very vague. He never leaves a voice message. The texts are very brief, like, hey, hi, YUD, what's up? I'm like, there's no substance here. Like, why is this person trying to reconnect? So I ignore it. Like, I delete it right away. And then it kind of stops after a month of him persisting for some reason. And about 2 weeks after that, I get this text. And it says, hi, Sealia, this is Kelly. I used to date Ryan, which is the guy. So I used to date Ryan, and I definitely think he wronged both of us, and I just really wanted to chat with you to get some closure. And I'm like, oh boy, what is about to snowball? So I'm excited. I feel like a little chismosa. I'm like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, ooh, tell me more. And she tells me how those past 6 months where I was blocked, they were dating. So Ryan and Kelly were dating, and it was going well, and then apparently I came up, and apparently I found out I had a nickname between them, which I thought was strange. Like you know, like couples have nicknames, but this couple had a nickname for me. I was like, since when am I a part of this relationship? Okay, and so she tells me that he would always lie and make up stories on how he knew me. And so apparently he had come up with this elaborate narrative of how he met me playing Dungeons and Dragons, and how I was very internet culture, femcel, very awkward, embarrassing, like undateable apparently in his mind. And so that was the nickname that he had created for me, D&D girl. And I was like, what? And as she's telling me this story, I tell Kelly right away, Mans has never played D&D. Like, I've invited him to my campaign, not interested, but whatever, you know. And so she continues to tell me how the relationship ended, and then she's telling me one of their very first dates, they went to the Blue Star Arts Complex. And I'm an artist, I'm a gallerist, I definitely am pertinent in that area. I hang around there, I have shows there. I'm in the area. And and one of their first dates was there, and then she proceeds to tell me that she had a really good time with him on the date. However, the whole time he was kind of looking over his shoulder, like very nervous. Kelly says, Ryan, why are you nervous? Ryan says, oh, I have a friend that works in this area, and I just really don't want to run into her. And I'm thinking, why is he in my area? And then I'm thinking, I think I've just scarred this man from ever coming around the Blue Star Arts Complex ever again. So that's kind of excited about my impact, but, you know. And so I'm just really confused, I'm alarmed. So then I'm thinking, like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? And so I'm kind of talking to my friends about this, about the nickname that I have, and we're kind of trying to like think, like, why would he do this? Like, why would this man like do this to me? And so we're trying to, like, obviously they're supporting me. They're like, what the heck? Like, why would that guy do that? And it was really nice talking to Kelly about that. And all of those stories, like, I'm really glad she was honest and told me, but it was just really distracting because her voice was very feminine, a little too feminine, like almost like anime character, like, oh my gosh, Sealia, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I'm like, I'm a little distracted right now, but thank you for being honest. And so whenever me and my friends kind of talk about Ryan, or he comes up, or, you know, we talk about paralegals or something of that nature, I always think about the nickname that we kind of call him, and I always say paralegal, more like paraloser.
What a gem. I love how you scarred him from going to that area. Like, could use that for rental property.
Exactly.
Wow. What, do you ever had a guy do that to you?
No, never.
No? Oh. She's like, I came out married. Yeah. Tight. I'm on several apps. Anyway, let's keep going. All
right. Our next storyteller is Diva. Now, Diva's story is about a recognizable voice that stiffed her a little bit too hard.
I'm sorry. I laughed at my own joke. Anyway, please welcome to the stage, Diva.
How are we doing? You did hear the name Diva. That is my name, and you're about to get a snippet of where that comes from. But first, the first thing you have to know about me is that I am a stand-up and sketch comedy nerd. A nerd. Like, when I was 10 years old, I was digging my parents' comedy records out when they, weren't listening. And I heard Carlin and Pryor and Bill Cosby. And by the time I was 13, I was sneaking out of bed at night to watch all the HBO specials and so forth. And I'm a lot shorter than people imagine, and I'm a lot older than I look. So this was in the 70s that I was doing this. In the 80s, I just watched everything I could at the advent of Comedy Central. I started watching everything that they put together. So I've been at this a long time. I go to shows, I go to festivals. I know a lot about comedy. When somebody is on The Simpsons and I hear their voice, I go, isn't that so-and-so? My husband will go, no, and we'll IMDb that shit. And there it is. I know who it is. So this is going to sound like a tangent, but bear with me. It all comes together. At the ripe old age of 26 in the 90s, I decided with two friends of mine that we were going to start a phone sex service. Okay? Now it's the 1990s. What do we not have in the 90s? Internet, caller ID, call waiting was new. What we did was we had a bank that we set up with, and marginal businesses, as they were then, as they are now, the banks are like, hey, you're going to take credit cards, it's fine. You get a few chargebacks, you have some problems, we're going to shut you down. Cool, no problem. Three of us ran the company. We had contractors that worked beneath us as well. Eventually, we had like 14 people working at this phone sex company. The three of us would take the office phone calls. Now, the three of us have two different voices. The office voice that takes the name, the address that's on the card, the phone number, the card number, everything that you need to run the charge, and then we call the bank, because there's no smart machines or any, we had to run it on one of those little card machines. So we had to call it in, we had to get it approved. So the phone rings, and I'm like, hi, thank you for calling. Who's the person that you want to talk to today? Yes, I'd like to speak to, and they would tell me who they wanted to talk to. Great. Each one of us also had our phone voice. Two of us were professional dominatrixes at the time. One of us was a professional submissive, so we had, a niche. So I get a phone call one afternoon, and I pick it up, and this person, hi, thank you for calling. Who would you like to talk to today? I would like to talk to Diva. And I go, all right, that's my alter ego. I can do this. So go ahead, and I'm thinking, I recognize this person's voice. Where do I know this voice from? So he's talking to me, and he's like, well, I'm interested in this, that, the other thing. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go ahead and get your name and your address, and we have to get all this information to run it through the bank. So I get his name, and I go, oh, didn't you have a show in development on Comedy Central recently? He goes, yeah, that's been canceled. And I went, oh, that's too bad. And I just, did my office voice. So, I alter egos. Did my office voice, called the bank, got everything approved, called him back and said, hey, Diva is available. You can call her at X number. Gave him the number. Just call her whenever you're ready. You're set for an hour. Now, Diva was a hard ass and would pick up the phone and say things like, what do you want? And to this day, we did our hour. It was great. I'm not going to tell you about it. But one of the reasons I loved this job so hard, and I still love every story about it, is that I love men and the way that they think. They have the most beautiful minds about sexual fantasies I have ever encountered. There are foot fetishists and humiliation junkies, and there's this thing called sploshing. Now, I can tell by the laughs, most of you don't know. Sploshing is when you play with your food in a sexual way. I actually had a client that I would talk to on the phone, and I would make him pour creamed corn on himself. Oh, fabulous. Loved him. All right, so we finish our hour, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is a business transaction, get through it. And the other half of me is going, oh my God, I can't believe you just talked to him. So if you want to know who it is, you can ask me after the show, and I'm still not going to tell you. You could just, ask away. Just drop names. It's not Bill Cosby because I wouldn't remember if it was him. So, thank you, Tori. So anyway, we hang up. 2 weeks later, there's a phone call at the office line. I pick up. Hi, who is it that you'd like to talk to today? Actually, I have a billing problem. Oh, okay. Same voice. I know who this is. I talked to you for over an hour. Okay, what seems to be the problem? Well, see, my brother got a hold of my credit card. Excuse me, what? I didn't say that. In my head, I'm going, what? I know this is you, fucker. I know this is you. Well, see, he got a hold of my credit card, and he's been calling sex lines, and he's been charging things to my credit card. Cool. And I can't argue with it, because if we get too many chargebacks, we're going to get shut down. There's only so many banks that will deal with us. Cool, let me run that refund for you. What was that card number again? Because we don't keep anything on file. That's just dangerous. Shred. I get all of his information. I run the card, and I say, you can call your bank now. The credit is there. And thank you. Have a nice day. He hangs up the phone, and I immediately call every other phone sex service that we know of in the country. And I let them know who this person is. Do not take this person's calls. Come to find out about a month or so later that he had been doing this to several of our girls as well as other people in the industry, and he got blacklisted so hard. To this day, I don't know if he ever called anybody again, but I'm a stand-up comedy nerd. I go to festivals, I go to shows. I love this man's comedy, and I have since the early 90s. And so I have seen him in person and shaken his hand since the 90s. Shook his hand. Great show. Thank you for having this. Went to a charity event that he was hosting. Thank you for doing this. I have signed posters by this man, signed DVDs by this man. And whether he's put it together or not, I have no idea, and I don't care. Because one of my favorite things to do in the world is when he appears on YouTube or TV, or I see him in any context. I love to point and go, bitch, where's my money? Thank you.
Guys, I've thrown so many names at her. I'm like, tell me, I want to know. I just want to be like, meet him and be like, you owe me money now, actually. Get fail. All right.
Yep, okay.
Wow, we only have one more left. How do you guys feel about that? It's okay. Let's stay here all night.
Okay.
Now, I'm super sad, but this is the last one. It's our last storyteller of the evening. It's Justin Governale. He's going to share a story about a night he thought ended when he passed out in the back seat of the car.
You guys, please welcome our last storyteller, Justin Governale.
What up? All right, so it is rumored that Marines do not lie, cheat, or steal. And I'm just here to clear the air. All right, 2007, I'm hanging out with my buddies in San Diego, California, right? And I'm hanging out with my other Marine buddies. And, you know, it's a typical Friday night of, you know, avoiding the mental thoughts of like what the war could bring on, you know, whatever. And so we're just drinking heavily, and I can't stay awake. I'm like really drunk. And so my buddies say, hey man, you need to keep partying. You need to wake up here. And they give me a Monster energy drink, and they put a 5-hour energy inside of it. Yeah, that's my last memory. So I get too drunk. They put me to sleep in the back of my friend's car. All good, not a big deal, right? I got too drunk. I wake up, some guy is yanking me out of the vehicle. And as he's yanking me out of the vehicle, I'm very intoxicated. I'm also very confused. I'm just trying to get some, awareness of where I'm at. And as I start looking around and I'm rubbing my eyes trying to see where I'm at, he slaps a handcuff on me, handcuff to my friend, and he says, "Shut the fuck up, motherfucker." And I'm like, what? And I rub my eyes and I see a street sign. It's a stop sign that says Alto. Yeah, dog. I'm in Tijuana, Mexico. So I look at my buddy that I'm handcuffed to, and I'm like, Chris, we're in Tijuana. And he says, I'm sorry, man. I just wanted to get some strippers. And I'm like, we're in Tijuana. And he starts trying to make the situation better by saying, I tried to wake you up, man. You wouldn't wake up. I'm like, dude, I don't care about you waking me up. We need to get out of this situation, right? Because he's drunk and he's driving. So they throw me in the back of the cop car, handcuffed to my buddy, and there's another friend handcuffed by himself. And they found a blade, a knife, on the center or on the side console. And they grab it, and through the windshield, they start taunting us. Oh, I'm like, we're in a lot of trouble. Chris, you brought a knife. Why would you do that to Mexico? And he says, I hope they don't find the pistol. And I'm like, the pistol? So let me backtrack. This Marine was married, got a divorce. You get paid double. And he didn't tell the Marine Corps that he got divorced so he can keep getting paid double. But now he's got nowhere to live, so he's got all of his personal belongings inside of the vehicle, to include, a knife and a pistol. So the cops are taunting us through the windshield saying, oh, and they're like checking it out. It's a nice gun, right? Whatever. And I'm handcuffed to my buddy, and he just keeps saying, I'm sorry, man. I just wanted some strippers. And he just keeps apologizing. I'm like, dude, shut up. Shut up. Let me talk. They don't speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. And so then they pop the trunk, and he says, oh, no, dude, I hope they don't find the sniper rifle. I'm like, the sniper rifle? Yeah, dog. So through the windshield, they're like, oh. And again, the whole time, this guy thinks that I'm mad that he didn't wake me up for strippers. I'm like, shut up, Chris. I don't care about the strippers, right? I'll get those in the U.S. later on. A perfect 10 here in San Antonio, Texas. No. So they're driving us all around, and I'm like, don't talk, let me do all the talking. And as they drive us all around Tijuana, Mexico, they drive us to the top of some hill. And this took place over several hours, right? And they drive us to the top of some hill, and there's a cliff, there's the ocean, it's outside of Tijuana, and we're in a super serious situation. I've never had a more tense situation in my life. I'm handcuffed to my buddy, and the cops get out. They had been driving his vehicle around in front of us, and one cop was driving our cop car around. So they drive us to the top of this cliff, and I could see the ocean, and me and my buddy said, hey, man, if they get us out of the vehicle, me and you are going to kill the fat one, you're going to kill the skinny one. Real story. We killed all of them. No, I'm just kidding. No, so it was a super serious situation. I look at them, and we give each other a very serious nod. It was like a team building exercise, like at that point. And we give each other the nod, and dude, I'm like, someone's gonna die. It might be us, right? And the cop gets in the vehicle, and he just puts it in drive, and he just slowly starts driving off, and we look at each other, and we're like, right? So they keep driving us around. And then they like at this point I'm talking. They don't know what I'm saying because they don't speak Spanish. And I'm like, listen, you can arrest us, but we've been sent by the U.S. government to kill drug dealers. And if you kill us or if you arrest us, hundreds of innocent people are gonna die. And he's like, shut the fuck up, motherfucker, plastic and pin right now. That's all he kept saying all night, right? And so I'm like, and then he says in Spanish, te vamos a quitar las armas. We're going to take away your firearms. I'm like, they're serialized. Take away our firearms. Dude, the U.S. international incident. And these cops are looking at each other, right? Whatever. And so they drive us to an ATM. And one of my friends says, tell them I have $1,000. And I'm like, mi amigo, my friend here says he's got $250 US. And he's like, plastic in your pin right now, motherfucker, right? He robs friend A, he robs idiot B, and he goes to rob me, and he says, okay, like, give me your plastic and your pin, and I do what I learned in the Marine Corps. You got to relate to the guy. So I say, like, hey, man, you got kids? And he's like, yeah, what does that matter? And I'm like, I have 2 daughters. I don't have daughters, by the way, but yeah. So I'm trying to relate to my captor, and I'm like, you know what it's like when your kids go hungry. If I give you money, they're not going to eat for 2 weeks, and you know what that. He's like, how much do you have in your pocket? I'm like, $27 US. Very specific, right? But I remember it. So he takes the money, and he's like, get back in the vehicle. They drive us around hours upon hours, dude. And they drive us to the U.S. border. At this point, it's probably 1 p.m. the next day, right? I could see the United States border. I could see customs agents, right? And they drive us to the border, broad daylight, dude. Pop the trunk, loaded sniper rifle, loaded pistol, put them in the vehicle, and he says in Spanish, ya vete a la verga, ya no te quiero ver a mi país. Get the fuck out of here. I never want to see you in my country again. And he points to the border, and I'm like, all right, cool, no, we're good. They uncuff us. They get us in the vehicle, and we sit down, and my friend looks at me, and he's like, dude, what the hell did you tell those cops? And I'm like, I said we're sent by the U.S. government to kill drug dealers, and if they arrest us, hundreds of innocent people are going to die, and that the weapons are serialized, and they couldn't take them, and we're in a top secret. And he's like, what? And they're both freaking out, right? They have no idea. And so, anyway, they end up driving us. Again, we're in line for quite some time. And I see a sign that says, San Diego, California. And to add on to the stress, there was a changeover. There was the customs agent's changeover. it just worked out in our favor, right? They do a changeover, and then we get up there, and then the guy sees our stupid haircuts, right? And he's like, passports. And my friend says, oh, sir, we're just Marines. We just wanted to have a good time in Tijuana for the weekend. And you could tell the guy's a Marine because the first thing he does is this knife hand. And he's like, you idiots! You know you're not supposed to be down there. Yeah. And he's like, who are you with, Marine? And we say the generic response. It's not even true. We're not with this unit. But we're like, first recon? It's just what you say, right? Someone in their unit would get in trouble later. I don't care, right? And so he goes, are you idiots bringing anything back from Mexico? And I've never had another more tense moment, right? My heart's racing, in and out of Mexico with freaking sniper rifle and a pistol. He's like, you all bringing anything back from Mexico? And he's like, just ourselves, does that count? And then he looks around and he goes, get the fuck out of here. And so we go, and I turn up the radio, and it was 2007, Busta Rhymes, one of the hit songs at the time was, this is serious. I hope you had a healthy fear. So I turn up the radio, my friend goes, no, we have to cross 3 green lights. He turns it down, and if you get a red light, we get searched. We're done. International incident. I'm all over Fox and CNN, dude. And so we hit the first gate, green, second one, third one, green, and as soon as we pass the third one, he just turns it up, and it's this is serious. And all 3 of us, the music video, I don't know if you remember, Busta Rhymes was on the hood going like this. So he's like, this is serious. And we're just going like that. And then he's like, Tijuana! We're like, ah! Anyway, every Marine has that one incredibly unbelievable story. And although there are many like it, this one is mine. Thank you.